that moment that you hear about list, are you like, yikes, list? Really? Do we need to talk about list and not one, but multiple lists? Well, it's not exactly the reaction I got, but it is kind of close interpreted. The reaction was, well, can we do with one list? And I was like, well, no, because there is a story behind all of those lists. So, no, we want multiple lists. Today I'm going to talk about fun and I'm going to talk about lists. So, I made this framework for you. And then I adjusted that framework so it became this. This is when it becomes fun. So today we are going to talk about a challenge being given by none other than Brendon Burchard. You must have heard me talk about him. He is my role model and he's got this challenge going on, which is called Done by One. So the goal is that we do the important things before 1 o'clock. And of course, he talks about other things too. And well, he had this rerun from IBP Influencer Business Pro. And actually, it was recording where I had been present before. I knew because he said, "Hi, lady, I see you." He always calls me lady instead of Lexi. Well, for the insiders, they know it's Lexi, but the brand name, of course, is Lady Lexi. So that's basically the story. Anyway, he talks about a few things which are all linked to prioritizing things, hence done by one, and focusing on the things that are important to you to get out there. And well, one of the things that I have been working on was this beauty. I think it's beauty. Don't you think it's beauty? I think it is. I love doing things with symbols. And the first time I started doing kind of these things was with this one. Do you remember this one? This is my transformation sheet. So I used all these little visual things to show you how the transformation sheet works. And well, ever since I wanted to make things like this handout, which basically don't require text, but just the symbols on there. And in case you're wondering what this is 7 ways to express yourself. I talked about it last week, if correct. Well, actually, I talked about the importance of being an entrepreneur, but there's a lot of stuff on blog posts. If you go to ladylexi.com/blog, you will find it. There's a lot of it on Instagram, Lady Lexi Speaks Up. And well, today we are going to combine the two. So Friday Night Live for me is about sharing what happened this last week. And so looking back and also, of course, sharing a framework with you. Now, if you look at this, then that's maybe more an obvious framework to you. But when you look at this, then it basically should say it all. So what we are talking about today is about the dreams and goals, because it all starts with dreams and goals. Hence why I also have a dreams and goals list. It's about prioritizing. That's the done by one part. It is about brainstorming. So the whole brainstorming thing is something which is so important. I call it the anything goes list. But brainstorming, so getting everything out there and really writing down what matters. And basically, this framework is the result of brainstorming. So if you look at my notebook, this is the notebook. So it started with writing down this stuff and then coming up with the framework. Getting back to the framework, then we have two other things. Now, this is the to do but not today list. Did you hear me? To do but not today. So, what do I mean by that? Those are things which are still important, but they don't need to be done by one. But you need to focus on them. One of those things, for instance, is this weekend I really need to work on my taxes. It's the end of the previous quarter. So that means that I need to get the VAT to the accountant. And well, basically, I need to create an overview so she can see what I've been earning and also what I've spent for the company. It's not one of my favorite things. And hence why fun is actually kind of important. So when I think about it, one of the things that I'm actually kind of proud of lately is that I can do it really smoothly and really efficiently. So that could be a fun aspect. But also when it's done, it feels good. And it's also good to see what I actually earned this quarter, right? Here in this part is mindset. And yes, when I said, well, I'm not looking forward to doing those taxes, that of course has to do with finances. And, there's always striving for more. And, that's also what done by one is about. It's about prioritizing, because if you want to sustain your goals and dreams, well, then it's also important that there is income on the side. And those mindsets, well, they can talk to you about, I don't want to do this, or I don't feel like do this. And then basically when you write it down, it's actually about, well, maybe I'm afraid of doing this, or I had some bad experiences. And then we get back to this beauty. Do you remember this one? If you've seen my lives more often than you do. So this talks about the negatives beliefs, and this makes it positive. So in the end, it ends up here, which basically says, oh, but I love doing my taxes because it shows me how good I've done things. See, it goes from to, hey, that could actually be kind of cool. Now, talking about mindsets, someone pointed something out to me this week, and I'm glad she did, because I've been talking a lot about fun. And she said to me, do you feel obligated to do the Friday Night Live? And why was it? It was said in sort of other words, but that's what it came down to. And why did she say so? Because I said, whenever I do an Instagram Live, it's so much easier. It's with way more fun. And I don't know what the difference is compared to the Friday Night Live. Is it because it's an hour? Is it because it has to be at a fixed time, which I never succeeded in doing? Or it should be that it's sort of around this time lately. But yes, the question, of course, is what is the difference? And quite honestly, I don't know. What I do know, especially listening to that one episode from Brendan, is that consistency is so important. And I realized that I'm consistent in doing this live. So it's called Friday Night Live. If you look at Pacific time, it's a little past midnight now. If you look at European time, specifically Dutch time, we're actually already Saturday morning. So it depends on what time zone I keep in mind. Usually that is Pacific time. It's just easier to use that time. And I've also noticed that when I sleep before doing the live, I'm way more rested, and it's way easier to talk about things. I can be way more excited. But having said so, the question, of course, is what kind of time am I going to list so people know, oh, but you know what? She is live on this time every week. So people know I am live, but they don't know at what time. So I think some people are beginning to get an idea, which is that it's around this time. But yes, I do believe that when it comes to consistency and people being able to find you, that it's actually good to plan ahead. Which brings me to not just prioritizing, but also about deadlines. I'm no fan of deadlines. I'm just going to say it. I am not. But with the done by one challenge, well, it needs to be done by one, right? So things have changed. I set my alarm every now and then. It doesn't work, and I just sleep through it like yesterday. And the good news is that I don't stop doing things by one. So by one, are supposed to do the most important things, show it on Instagram. So if you look at my Instagram wall, then you not only see the checkerboard, but you see a lot done by one, and yes, you will also see a lot. And Brandon Burchard, which is because he basically asked us to put it there so he can find what we have been doing. One of the cool things is when he was talking about it, he also talked about the importance of having at least 5 people in your accountability group. And then he upped it till 10. And I was like, how? And then I found out that all of a sudden, a lot of people, whether it is from Ulta, one of those groups from Brendan, or from this challenge, are actually willing to share with one another what they are doing. So here comes accountability. Now, of course, he also talked about other people, like close friends, for instance. And I've got one friend, and yes, we keep one another accountable. So that's really good. So yeah, that's what we want. Now, talking about deadlines, because that's what I was talking about. I made a number of lists, right? And like I said, someone asked me why the amount of lists. So let me go back to this thing right here. Now, you might not be aware of this, but these are actually lists. And well, to start with the last one, this is the to-do, but not today list. So it's not about the things that we get to do today, and especially not on a daily basis, but the things that are not included in the priority list. And they are still important, so they need to be done. Like I said, like the taxes. And that still means that we need to put a deadline on it. And I don't know about you, but I'm very good at, if it's not today, well, it needs to be done somewhere this week. And that's where we go. So I said to myself, taxes, they need to be done this weekend. So the same basically applies to goals and dreams. So that's where you go, right here. Now, those goals and dreams, why are they so important? Well, then I'm going to get into the aspect of fun as well. And for those who are like, oh my God, she's going all over the place, it all makes sense because it connects to one another. Goals and dreams are the basis. What are you doing it for? Why are you achieving a certain goal? Why are you looking forward to it? Why are you learning something, becoming better at something? Why do the done by one challenge? The most important things that need to be done. Well, because you have a dream. You see certain things, and the goal, of course, is that dream makes you happy and smile. And well, if there's something that I have come to realize is that we see a lot of things as obligations and no longer as fun. So when that person said to me, Lexi, do you still have fun doing the Friday Night Live? I was like, yeah, I do have fun. But often I feel so tired. So then I do it late and then it feels sort of conflicted because it's somewhere between Friday Night Live and Saturday Morning Live. You get my feeling? Like, I'm not sure if that's correct, but I also know it's still Friday Night Live somewhere. So it's actually not that bad to actually say so. And it's still about reflecting back on the week. And while there's no such thing as perfection, so I can say, well, I need to change the name so it's more accurate. But accurate for whom? That's the question. So I actually don't know why it's so much easier to do it on Instagram. Is it because there is no deadline to it? As in no, well, first of all, there's no deadline, although when it comes to consistency and being predictable, there are some things when people know that there are some aspects people know that I'm predictable in. I guess that's the best way to describe it. As for the deadlines going live on Instagram, I've never set a deadline for going live on Instagram. I actually am not even consistent when it goes to going live on Instagram. But one of the things that I did realize is it's actually kind of nice when I've posted the things for Done by One to actually do go live. And I was like, okay, so that I can do, because that would be somewhere 1:30 my time that I would be going live on Instagram daily. So that's something to consider. Now, if I combine it all together when it comes to consistency and priority, then I've got a couple of things that I get out there. So on Monday, usually Monday evening, there is, well, again, that depends on the time zone. There is the Monday motivational message. Then on Friday, the Friday Night Live. And well, every day I do post on Instagram, but it would be kind of nice if I could add not only a quote, but also a video. So you always see a dark blue one, that's the quote, and then there's a picture or a video next to it. So usually I do post twice a day, but it would be kind of nice to actually say, okay, let's be consistent, let's be predictable, and have a short live on Instagram. Because the difference, of course, between this Friday Night Live and the live on Instagram, which sometimes takes like half an hour every now and then I'm like, what was I talking for so long? But yes, it does happen, is that people on Instagram only watch for a short amount of time. They don't have the attention span. And that's one of the reasons that I always edit the videos whenever I have the chance and put captions underneath. So actually Instagram does it too. So I wouldn't need to do it, but they don't always understand what I'm saying. And it's not always the correct spelling. So it's kind of nice to put my own captions underneath. And yes, it does have its advantages. Why? Because take, for instance, the training, the courses. So those lists, even though not this picture, although I probably will add this picture, are part of the Clarity Challenge. So the Clarity Challenge talks about goals and dreams. Yeah, you recognize them, right? It talks about mindset and the subconscious mind. It talks about ways to get your thoughts written down. So by writing, basically. And there's also meditation in there. Well, all combined, it's 31 days. Well, actually, it's 32 days of having lessons each day which help you move forward. And the best way to move forward is actually to understand why you are procrastinating with certain things. And to figure out why you don't do certain things, it's important to understand your beliefs, your convictions, your survival mechanisms. So basically, your mindsets. And then we get back to, yes, those lists. So now let's start with the right order of those lists. It actually starts with this one, the brainstorm, the anything goes list. Why is that one so important? That one is so important because you just write everything down. And like I said, it's not about the things you do on a daily basis. We know those things. So no, you don't have to write down that you're doing the dishes, for instance, or that you're going to cook. It might help you to write down the timeline if that really makes a difference, but it's not that one thing that you want to get off the list. This is about the things that help you move forward in the future with in your life or maybe with your business. So that's something to think about. That's why I talked about becoming an entrepreneur last week, which basically was about what if you're a solopreneur, so no people, no staff, and you want to start up, what do you need to think about? Now, so brainstorming and hence writing. I always write a lot. Like I said, it started out with this part. Is about getting all the stuff out there. What's happening, what's new, what needs to be added, what needs to be edited. All those little things. Usually when you start writing and something else pops up and then some more and then something else again, especially when talking to other people. So brainstorming is the initial list, and by talking to other people, you get more clarity about what it is that you need and what you could do. And well, one of my friends, she basically said, okay, you know what? I like this idea, but you can change certain symbols. So that's what I did. And actually, it would be kind of cool. So this is a handout, A5. So that's half the page of sheet. To this credit card size. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? So you can always look at this, and when you need inspiration and you want to enjoy what you're doing, you want some fun, then you look at this and you just can pull it out of your wallet. But actually, it's already the size of the phone. Of course, that depends on what kind of phone you have. But yes, it's out there. And it's out there to be downloadable. The question is, when will I have the offer done? So that's on my priority list too. But for now, priority was, of course, doing this live. So brainstorming. Now, again, it all has to do with the goals and dreams, which is in the middle of the triangle. What is it that you have in mind? Well, I want to leave a legacy where people know how to speak up and speak out, share the story, so they are heard, seen, and understood. And well, it's about being taken seriously. It's about not feeling like, oh, it must be me, and then being like, oh, well, maybe I should give up. No, this is about you and what you want to achieve. Well, and what I want to achieve is that people are taken seriously. Of course, that has to do with my own pain, especially literally when I tripped on a brick and I couldn't stand on 2 feet anymore. And what I have had to learn to do to actually be heard and get that second surgery. There's way more to it. But when I see people and I talk to people, especially the younger ones, who don't see any perspective, but also people my age, mind you, I'm like, okay, we need to change that because life is worth living. But if you don't feel like it, then every day can be like, oh my, we have another day. Really? What am I going to do? So it's about, do you feel like you can go on? Do you feel like you have a purpose to live for? Or are you like, oh, what can I expect today to happen? And that's a whole different ballgame. So, goals and dreams, we want them to be fun. So, hence why it's a separate list. It's a list which has to do with the long-term future. So for me, it's about leaving a legacy. And someone asked me, well, do those goals, shouldn't they be realistic? And my answer to it was, well, you want big goals, you want big dreams, and then you chop it up into milestones. But it's so important to keep seeing what it is you want to do it for. So here's the thing. When we're talking about visualizing, and mind you, those mindsets too, then we want to see something that would be so amazing to achieve. And we don't let fear get in our way. We don't get what you call being rational in our way. No, this is about dreams. And have you ever talked to a little kid about, but your dream is not realistic? Really? Did you do so? They dream about so many things. And when we talk about the inner kid that we have inside of us, then that inner kid still remembers those dreams. And, you know, we can talk about people like, for instance, Einstein and the dreams that they had. We can talk about people who said, we are going to fly one day. And everyone was like, no way, that's not going to happen. But when you do have a certain goal, which deems very unrealistic at first, it's about focusing on that one thing that will help you move forward towards that one direction, hence the priority list, which is on top. So the things which are going to get you to achieving your goals and your dreams. Now, by setting a deadline done before one, things get clarity. But of course, you can basically list everything to be done by one. So it's not about having done something by one, it's about having done something by one which is important. So yesterday, like I said at the beginning, I didn't have that much time. I slept a lot and I guess I needed it. And by the time I woke up, I was like, ooh, this is not much time left. But here was the thing. Due to circumstances, I was only able to post my blog post on Facebook and not on Kajabi. And that bothered me because I wanted that blog post to be out there. But in addition, there was something else, which was I had been thinking about those lists. I had been writing about those lists, and I needed them to be in the clarity course. And having written them down earlier this week, like I said, it doesn't stop at one for me. If I still have time and I'm basically already in the flow anyway, then why not go on? So that's what I did. And the cool thing was all I had to do was copy and paste, and then I had my posts. And then it was also about creating a number of thumbnails, which I did. And now it's basically about checking. There are, I think, 2 lessons left, which actually need some content. So I wrote them down more of like a brainstorming thing. So I would have the titles, but then I'm done. And by the way, if you want to be part of the Clarity Challenge, take advantage of the fact that it's not fully out there yet. Yes, it's been as good as fully written. But right now, you can get it for a discount price exactly for that one reason. And of course, I'm always curious about what you have to share with me. So now I can still update the course. So take advantage of it. So getting back, brainstorm, anything goes. That's basically without the deadlines. Then what's the priority, which is linked to your dreams and goals. And again, your dreams and goals should have a deadline too. So for me, and that was the first actually, I'm like, okay, so this month, one of the things that I want to achieve is getting a fully booked trip of people who want to be coached by me one-on-one, but also keep doing some group coaching afterwards. Now in September, I like to go to Chicago. It's still nice weather over there. It's after high season, so it's not that expensive. At least that is what it should be to get there. So I want people to see this magnificent city. The architecture is amazing. The people are even more amazing, and still at the same time be coached by me. And then later on, form a group. And I guess the group that I would consider or the most effective, and that has a reason. So this is not about excluding other people, but talking to small business owners and have them get together on a weekly or 2 weekly basis after having worked on their mindsets could be so valuable. Why small business owners or solopreneurs? Because they don't have other people to talk to when it comes to accountability. And they do run into a lot of similar problems. For instance, when it comes, how can I get my employees involved? How can I get them to cooperate? And well, they care about having a good time, but they are not that focused on also creating revenue. So they might be a little bit sloppy. Other people actually, they sort of, well, they might get going with the idea and the concept that you've got. But there's a lot which is involved with becoming an entrepreneur. So hence why I talked about that last week. And I lost my train of thoughts for a sec. Why did I go right to this part? And it hasn't happened to me for a while, but that's because of my enthusiasm that I'm actually talking about this. Oh yeah, so goals and dreams and trips. So I want people to come with me in September. It's January now. And usually I would start to think about this somewhere in July, August, September, the month itself. And I'm like, no, I'm going to set a deadline now and I'm going to get a behind the scenes out there. So people can actually already prepare for the idea that there's going to be a trip in September. And like I said, Chicago is an amazing city. So also people who are not entrepreneurs can go there. It's just that if I would be able to get a group of people to get together and work on those goals, think about how do we work with employees so they actually see the value of their employees, and vice versa, the employees also understand what your goals and dreams are. Wouldn't that be amazing? And of course, when you improve your communication, that has an effect on you, the people you work with, your family, your children, your friends. So there is a ripple effect. That's one of those things. So yes, goals and dreams can have a deadline too. Not just a priority done by one, but also the deadlines. Now, the odd one out actually is the mindset. And what I would suggest is the mindsets, I call them the heart realizations, are those things that pop up. And when you're writing down your list, you're already like for instance, it was the Texas. So I know I do best when it's weekend. There's not much going on. So I can actually go pretty quickly. And I already know what to do. So it only takes me a few hours. But yes, I do need to get started and doing it. So what you want to do is, because those mindsets, those heart realizations can hold you back and prevent you from having fun, is actually write them down. What is it that is bugging you? What is it that you are telling yourself? And if you have the time to do it before 1, then I would advise you to do it straight away. But if you don't have the time, then do it when you do have some time. So when I describe this activity, then I say, well, you want to get into the flow. So you want to set an intention, put on the right music, but you also want to be able to actually write it down without being interrupted. So I guess that means put it on airplane mode, your phone or your tablet or whatever it is that you are using, and set an alarm. Give yourself, say, for instance, half an hour, and then use that list right here. And people who are on Instagram, they just go to the bio. There are some links. If I think about it, I also put those links down in the descriptions, and then I'm pretty sure you can also find them in my blog post. But transforming your mindset is about taking those realizations, writing them down. It's literally the first thing that's there, and then pointing out what's not working. So basically, it's the word not, the negative thing that you want to take out. So, like a friend of mine said, if you tell your kids, do not run, what are they going to do? They're going to run. If you say to them, walk slowly, then the picture is slowly. The emphasis is on slowly instead of running. So you want to see why you're doing things and how you can turn them into positive beliefs. Now, there are hard realizations, first of all, because you probably don't like what you are experiencing. There can be a lot of emotions involved. But at the same time, if you can pay attention to those emotions, then they can also transfer into something positive, in something beautiful. So for instance, yesterday I was playing drums, and for a moment there was a certain sadness. So I was happy to be playing along with one of those songs, which is awesome for starting playing drums. It's called Animal Magnetism, and it's really slow. And with slow, I mean really slow. And it's a perfect way to actually start playing drums, because, oxygen system and everything, you need to get into the vibe, get moving. Your heart needs to adjust, your lungs need to adjust, hence oxygen system. And by watching a video, especially with the late James Kodak, the drummer for over 20 years, it's kind of cool to watch him, because he is so energetic and he's having so much fun. And there are little clues and elements that, if you know what you are seeing, that you can get to recognize. So when I'm looking at that, I'm having fun. So I did my warming up, then I did my exercises, and then I finished by playing Forever, which is a song by Kiss. If correct, it's 88 or 89. It was when Eric Carr, the late Eric Carr, was still alive. And it's one of those really beautiful songs. I love listening to that song. And in the beginning, You hear him on the hi-hat, but you also hear these bass drums. And they are a little bit placed differently compared to normal. But the whole vibe behind that song, it's I just love it. And of course, it's like, hey, Eric Carr is there, so I don't have a video with him playing on it. There probably is a video. No, correct me, there is a video, but I've got all these pictures of Eric Carr on my wall. So it's just being there, and it's a perfect way to end the whole drumming. So I basically raise the speed, then I go back again, and then you want to finish up. Basically, like you would do any exercise, whether it's Kalanetics, oh, that's an old version, an aerobic session, or whatever it is. You want to tell yourself, your body, and your brain, we're going to do something, hence, set the intention. And then you also want to slow down again. And for me, that's not only going down in speed, but also stretching afterwards. So yesterday when I done so, I noticed I was a little bit sad. But at the same time, because both of them are no longer around, they have left not only a mark on me, they are a big inspiration for me. And that won't change. I mean, their legacy is out there. And when you know that they passed prematurely, so Eric Carr was younger than I am now, James Collick was older than I am now, and you can understand that me wanting to leave a legacy feels like, okay, I need to get this out there, because if I want to touch people's lives, and I know I already did so, but I want to do it on a bigger scale, then, well, there is no other conclusion than I need to work to getting the message out there. Except for sustaining the message, having enough money to keep on going. It's going to be way beyond this. And then I get back to that one question. But do you dare to believe? Do you dare to dream? Do you dare to say, I am going to do this? Or are you going to say, well, I'll just stick to what I know I can achieve? And here's the thing, and actually I heard this one from Tony Robbins during Business Mastery, and he said, we need to dream big, because when we don't and we've achieved a certain goal, then we fall downright into deep depression. And that's one thing we don't want. That's why I'm talking a lot about fun, because I know there are a lot of people out there who are afraid to actually get started, or when they come upon a struggle, or there are personal circumstances, or circumstances they actually cannot do something about, say from local government, well, then they still need to move on. Or at least that's the goal. I mean, as long as you're alive, let's make the most of it. But that's easier said than done. So, getting back to all of this, then we get to the mindset, the heart realization. So the last list, the to-do list, not today, is basically about the things that you know which are important. They are linked to your goals and dreams. Well, sort of, but those are the things that also need to be done. And not daily, not every day, but every once in a while, they are part of the things that need to be done. And, well, it's good to know that you need to do them, so they are on your mind. You've got your focus. But they don't need to be on your priority list for that day, but they need to be on some list somewhere, so you actually know you're going to do them. Hence, deadlines. Now, having talked about those lists, and yes, I'm setting up a course, a training about this too, because I totally believe in the importance of these things. And why do I believe in it? Because I've been testing it. So I was like, okay, so how does this work? And I know that if I just have one list, that's not going to work for me. It just doesn't. Whereas if I give myself an overview, this needs to be done today and this can be done a little bit later, it helps me to focus on things, especially the goals and the dreams part is so important to remember. This is what I'm doing it for. And again, it's about visualizing. Well, actually, I don't think I said so. It's about, but it is about visualizing. It's about dreaming. It's about, okay, so what does it look like if I were to be able to achieve it? And I can actually see it. I can daydream about it. You know, seeing those parks, seeing the people work there, seeing people coming over for one-on-one coaching, but also group coaching, having their own song, which is related to the past, the present, and the future, being on stage, seeing their own pictures, seeing their own videos, seeing what they were running into, and then saying, okay, I've turned my life around. I mean, how cool is that if you can actually live the dream? And just think about it. Live that dream before you are actually at the end. So see the future, be aware of the future, and looking forward to the future, working towards the future, enjoying it. I talked to you about the inner kid, remember? So the inner kid knows those dreams. Unfortunately, the inner kid also is the one behind the survival mechanisms most of the time. So survival mechanisms get into existence usually somewhere between 0 and 7 when we don't understand yet what is going on. So when we go to school, we learn to develop our ratio, and you know, at some point dreams diminish, fantasy diminishes, and we are able to put one and one together. But as children, you react to what's happening, to emotions, to certain events. And of course, as an adult, that can still happen. To give you an example, I did a Friday Night Live about those explosions near my physical therapist. And well, I'm not going to say every day, but a huge chunk of the week before I go to sleep, I will look around me like, okay, do I have the stuff that I need to have with me in case something happens? So I am aware that at any time or any moment there could be a fire or an explosion, and you, in order to survive, first of all, you need to be able to get out. But also it would be nice to actually have your stuff with you. And well, we did have a fire years ago, and this building could not have been there if the wind had changed slightly. And also, if there hadn't been a wall in front of a company also on the side, which could have led to explosions if that wall hadn't been there. So yes, when it comes to survival mechanisms, whereas I didn't think about it as much when that fire was there and the whole building, and it was a big building behind me, was destroyed, something changed when I saw the explosion, you know, earlier this month. Well, it was actually in December, in that neighborhood where I actually spent a lot of time. So yes, mindsets, the inner child knows a lot about those mindsets. It has determined something, which is the best way to do. It could be like, be quiet when something happens. You don't want to draw attention So they basically hide because when people notice them, that's not going to be good. So they haven't learned to speak up or speak out. They haven't learned to be the authentic version of themselves, because if you stand out, oh my God, that could be dangerous. But they do have their dreams and goals. At least once upon a time they did. And one of my dreams and goals, well, that's related to music in the US. And everyone who knows me, they're like, I expected you to be living in the US by now. So, well, might happen someday. It's on my dreams and goals list to have both place here and over there, so I can go whenever I want to each place. But yes, there are also mindsets, for instance, related to FOMO, fear of missing out. And, well, I talked to you about both drummers, and those are absolutely related to the fear of missing out. So, what are you going to do about that part? And like I said, they are very inspiring. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is be on stage, but behind the kit. So I've been playing the piano since I was about 3 years old. I'm not doing it nearly enough because at some point I switched to playing drums. Unfortunately, I cannot do it every day, which has to do with my living situation. But it would be kind of cool to actually be on stage behind the kit. So that's something that I'm, working towards. I don't have to put it on the priority list because, first of all, I don't need to have it done by one. Second of all, there's a routine to it. I know that on Fridays, I'm likely to be playing drums. And then every now and then I hear through the grapevine, like, hey, you can go there. Like earlier this week on Tuesday, I was suddenly able to go and play drums, which I took advantage of, by the way. So I do see myself on stage behind the kit, especially when I'm playing along with live music, with something which has been recorded live. So that's good. So for instance, Motley Crue, that's one of those examples. I've listened to the CD of Motley Crue time and time and time again. And, you would be able to hear Nikki Sixx or Vince Neil talking to Tommy Lee. And then, it would be like I would be sitting next to Tommy Lee behind my own drum kit and playing drums. So those goals and dreams, they are there. They were there and they're still there. And I'm pretty sure they started with Eric Carr, listening to him playing on Creatures of the Night. But it's not important when it started or how it started. It's important that it's there, and that you know it's there, and that you know what it looks like. But the question, of course, is what are you going to do about it? So what could be on the list is, for instance, getting a teacher again. So for years, I went to Klöver. Hans Klöver is no longer around. So that's another one of those late drummers. So at some point, when I was there, I had several drum teachers, not because he was not around, but basically because it made more sense to be playing with them. And I ended up with someone called Richard. And Richard Heiermans, he told me so many things. But then when I twisted my ankle, it became harder and harder because I didn't have any stability. And you need to have stability in order to play drums. So for years, I couldn't play drums, and now I'm finally able to do it again. So one of the things on the list, the to-do but not today list, could be finding a drum teacher. And the question, of course, is, am I going to continue with Richard, or am I going to find something local here and maybe do something with someone else as well? So combine it. Chances are that's what I'm going to do. So then, of course, that part of the dream and the goal is going to be on the to-do but not today list. It's not going to be on the priority list. It's not something that I do daily. It's something like, oh yeah, I need to reach out to people and get this done. So, having talked about all of this, do you know what your dreams and goals are if you were to join such a challenge as the Done by One challenge? Then what would you be working on before one? And I'm not talking about the daily chores again. I'm talking about those things that make a difference for you. What would those things be? And how are they related to your dreams and goals? Do you have deadlines for those dreams and goals? And we talked about the inner kid, but now let's also focus on the role models, our future selves. I call them the future champs. I've talked a lot about role models. I've talked about Brendon Burchard at the beginning. I've talked about Eric Carr, James Kodak. I'm not sure that I would call Hans Clever a role model. Richard, yeah, probably, because he played in a lot of different bands, to be able to be a musician full time. A lot of musicians out there, they are not full time musicians. They would like to be, but they do not know how to be full time musicians. So they have a job on the side as well. Of course, this has to do with management, with finances. There's a lot more involved than what I'm just saying. Getting the right musicians, of course, having them survive, that would make a difference too. And also, there's a big pitfall for musicians because when they do have a lot of attention and it happens from one day to another, well, try to combine that with daily life and not fall into the trap of drinking and all those kind of things. So hang on for one sec. So yeah, getting back to those goals and dreams. What are your goals and dreams, and how are you going to work on these, and what is your priority? And then again, look at those mindsets. What are they telling you, those mindsets? Are they telling you just be normal and then you're doing fancy enough the way it is? Or do you believe that things can happen? And what are you willing to do? How much time do you have in a day? And, well, have you thought about what it is that you need to do in order to achieve those goals and dreams? Hence the to do but not today list. Those are the things that I wanted to share with you. Again, if you want to become part of the Clarity Challenge, check the description. It's there. And like I said, there's a discount like right now. So if you want to join that one, do it. And also, check out the blog posts, check out the Instagram, because I want you to experience fun. And well, that fun aspect is also included in the Clarity Challenge. That's something that I can emphasize. For those people who are here backstage, stay on there when I finish this live, because then I can get you to come on stage, but you won't be in the live. So, that's for the people who want to be on the safe side. It's what we call an after party. So that's something you want to think about. For now, watch this again, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a comment about what you deem important.